Labdien! Šodien esam pulcējušies viesmīlīgajā Eiropas Savienības mājā. Šo pasākumu ir sasaucis Sieviešu sadarbības tīkls. Mani sauc Ielīte, man ir gods būt Sieviešu sadarbības tīkla valdes priekšsēdētājai. Un šodien mēs pulcējām Eiropas vēlēšanu kandidātus, jo tāpat kā mūsu kolēģis visā Eiropā, mēs uzskatām, ka Eiropa šobrīd ir krustcelēs. Un to jūs arī redzat šeit atspoguļotajā Eiropas sieviešu lobby manifestā. Mūsu koordinācija ir viena no 32 nacionālām koordinācijām, jo šajā Eiropas sieviešu lobbyjā sadarbojas visas Eiropas Savienības valsts un ir kandidātu valsts, un arī mūsu Ukrainas un Moldovas kolēģis strādā pie tā, lai iekļautos. Un kāpēc es šodien gribēju un priecājos redzēt šeit jūs, cienījamās kandidātas? Pirmkārt, tāpēc, ka mēs vienmēr aicinām vēlēšanās balsot par sievieti. Un šo publisko manu paziņojumu visbiežāk no visiem medijiem izgriež. Un es gribu aicināt mūsu klausītājus un jūs atbalstītājus, ka vienalga mēs no 2003. gada esam aicinājuši balsot par sievietēm. Jo Eiropā vidēji tikai 33% sieviešu ir valdībās vai parlamentos. Un kāpēc tas mums ir vajadzīgs? Nu, nekādu jau tādu mehānisku kvotu dēļ. Tas mums ir vajadzīgs tāpēc, ka sabiedrībā ir sievietes un vīrieši, un katram ir savas vajadzības un katram ir savs redzējums. Un tur, kur mēs redzam balansu starp sievietēm un vīriešiem, ir mazāk korupcijas, ir vairāk doma par nākotni, ir vairāk doma par bērniem. Bet es tagad beigšu savu uzrunu un stādīšu jums priekšā Eiropas sieviešu lobby valdes locekli un Eiropas sieviešu lobby finanšu pārvaldniece Edīti Kalniņu, kur īsumā pateiks visiem, kāpēc mēs šeit esam pulcējušies un ko jūs no mums varat sagaidīt. Lūdzu, Kalniņas kundze.
Paldies. Jā, man prieks satikt jūs šodien klātienē, gan arī tiešsaistē. Un Eiropas sieviešu lobbyjas, kā lielākā sieviešu tiesība aizstāvības platforma, ar šiem vardarbības pret sievieti tiešsaistē jautājumiem ļoti aktīvi strādā kopš 2017. gada. Tas sākās kā viens projekts un tad pieauga kā sniega bumba, saprotot, ka tie apmēri, problēmas ir daudz lielāki nekā mēs varbūt sākotnēji to bijām iedomājušies. Ja mēs skatāmies Eiropas Savienību, tad 9 miljonu meiteņu ir piedzīvojušas uzbrukums tiešsaistē līdz 15 gadu vecumam. Un sievietes piedzīvo, un tostarp arī deputātu kandidātes piedzīvo tiešsaistē 27 reizes vairāk uzbrukumu. 27 reizes vairāk, jā. Un jau kopš pirmās dienas mēs arī ļoti cieši strādājam kopā ar sociālo tīklu un tehnoloģiju kompānijām kā Google un Meta. Un šis konkrēti projekts ir arī tapis sadarbībā ar Google, un šogad fokusā mums tieši ir sievietes politiķas un sievietes, kuras kandidē šobrīd Eiropas Parlamenta vēlēšanās, saprotot, cik apdraudētas un ievainojumas viņas šobrīd šajā arī priekšvēlēšana laikā ir tīklā. Un, protams, arī ar sociālo tīklu un tehnoloģiju kompānijām mēs strādājam arī plašāk, zinot, ka arī tikai viena no 5 programmētājām ir sieviete, un arī tehnoloģiju kompānija vadībā vēl nav, bet tas ir cits atzars. Tieši tāpēc tas mūsu lēmums bija šogad, ka mums ir jādod atbalsts sievietēm politiķiem, sievietēm kandidātēm, kuras startē vēlēšanās, ir jāiedod zināšanas prasmes, kā sevi pasargāt internetā. Un par to mums šodien stāstīs Google treneris Deivids Timis, kuram mums bija iespēja uzaicināt pie mums. Deivids ir tikko apmācījis vakardien Viņā Lietuvā lietuviešu Eiropas Parlamenta deputātu kandidāts. Tā kā vārds Deivid tev.
Hello, everybody. I will speak in English, and I hope that's okay for everybody. Yes, perfect. I will also have to sit down, so apologies for that, because it's a very hands-on presentation, so I'll have to show you things concretely on my laptop. Again, thank you very much for the kind invitation. It's been great for Google to collaborate with the European Women's Lobby for many years now. I used to be part of the team at Google back in 2019 for the previous elections, in which, again, I was doing these trainings around Europe, many of them with the European Women Lobby. And again, this year, I just came back from neighboring Lithuania, and then I'm going to go back to Brussels for more trainings, ideally with as many women politicians or aspiring politicians as possible, because this is something we strongly believe as an organization that is important to, bring up in positions of power, be it in politics or in business, people of all colors and genders, and especially in women. So without much further ado, I'm going to switch to the presentation. And it's, before I actually begin, since I don't know exactly what profile you have, would it be okay if you would say just your first name, and maybe if you're running for elections or if you're already a politician, would it be okay? Yeah? Would you like to start?
Yeah, my name is Jana, and I'm a member of the Latvijas Parliament, so I'm not from this side.
Yes. Thank you.
My name is Ellie. I'm representing the Progressives, so the Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm relatively new to the party politics. First bid as a candidate was nothing more than less than running for the president of Latvia.
Wow. Okay.
And currently I'm also the lead candidate for Progressives for the European elections.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Maybe we can continue there and then.
Hello, my name is Ines, and I'm a member of the Parliament of Latvia and currently running for the European Parliament and co-chairing the Liberal Party.
Thank you.
I work in the Riga City Council.
I'm Ines. I'm running for the European Parliament elections from the England Farmers Union. I'm also an associate professor at the University of Latvia holding a PhD in political science. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina, and I'm a politician, maybe not yet, who knows. I'm from August, my office in Latvia, but we are very interested in this topic because the husband and so on the internet is a very actual topic, and we are planning also to organize a discussion, maybe broader discussion in this year, against women and in internet against popular women, doctors or something like that.
I'm Renat, and I'm also from Ombudsman's office, and I'm not a candidate.
Hi, my name is Maya, and I'm 5 minutes late, probably. I'm from the party Latvia in the first place, and I'm here to find out what's new in our women's rights, right?
And you're running.
Yes, and I'm running for European Parliament as well.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tina, and I'm currently a member of Riga City Council. And I'm from Central Party and running for
Thank you very much. So again, I'm David. I represent Google here, and also to give you a bit about my background. So I used to work in Google's marketing team for 3 years, managing a program called Grow with Google to skill young people, especially entrepreneurs, to equip them with digital skills. And most recently, I'm part of the civics team, as it's called at Google, the team which is doing trainings for activists, politicians, civil society, to do mainly the following 3 things: informing voters, supporting campaigning, and protecting elections. My pillar, my priority, support campaigners, so that's why I'm doing all these, I call it now my Baltics tour, to train campaigners like yourselves. And I do this across the EU, either from Brussels, whenever the elected officials are there, or I go in country. We have colleagues who are experts in cyber. I will cover cyber, but I'm going to cover it at the sort of a basic level so everybody can understand. But for the most at-risk politicians, we have also cybersecurity-focused sessions in which you can dive even more deep on this subject. And last but not least, inform voters. This is for all citizens very relevant. So closer to the election, Google will have, in the Google search engine, you'll be able to see very easily how to vote, where to vote, and so on, and this information will be highlighted so that all citizens have it visible. So again, today we focus on supporting campaigners, and I have a few tools that I will present for you today. First of all, two tools which maybe are not as familiar with some of you. Have you used Google Trends before? One, two? Excellent. You're in the right place. And Gemini, have you heard of this one? Gemini? Same like GPT, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but it's okay.
Okay, let's agree that if we have dialogue, I give the microphone. And
if it's
also,
needed, yes.
Also for presentation, we will send to participants the
of
presentation.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mike is somewhere in the middle. No, I'm running to you. Okay.
Is it needed though, or just for the people watching online?
Yeah,
I guess.
Watching,
okay.
Yeah,
perfect. So
watching.
I'll be trying to be mindful with the dialogue, so we don't have to put you on the road all the time. So with Google Trends, it's funny enough. This is a tool that it's not new. Google has it for many years. It's powered by AI also, so it's a tool that is using the latest of AI. But it's just not as well known as Gemini or other tools that Google has. And I will show you here, and I'll quickly go out of my presentation a bit so I can show you concretely. I will show you how you can use it for your own campaigning. And the main reason you would use Google Trends is to better understand your audience, to see what keywords do people use when they search for key topics like these ones. I used very generic terms. I use them in English. Of course, you'd have to use them in Latvian to make sure you get the Latvian people's voice and how they see it. But why is this tool interesting? So, first of all, you can go back even to 2004 to see how people looked on Google for different topics, or even in some cases different politicians, because you can compare, especially if you're running, how are you doing compared to other people in maybe a different party and so on. It's quite fun, a fun Sunday activity. Also what you can do, and it's very important to remember, so here language is English. I set it the country is Latvian, but obviously I use the words in English, so the results might change if you translate them in Latvian, even though probably slightly, since AI has been by far the most Googled word in the last 6 months, or maybe even in the last year. What's also important is that here we were looking at Google search. What's very vital to check is how do the terms differ if you go on YouTube. And why is, and obviously still AI is the winner, but then education and climate, it's a bit different if you look like that. Why? Because YouTube has become, in not recent years, already probably since the last elections, I would say the second most used search engine in the world, meaning that if, most of us would still go on Google to look for information. If you have children, if you have younger siblings, or if you're teaching at the university, you will see that Generation Z is first going to YouTube for news, not even Google first. So they are looking for the videos of what the politician said, or what happened in the neighboring country, before even going to Google search. So that's why it's always important to remember when you use Google Trends, try to see if there's differences between Google search and, as I was showing you earlier, YouTube search. Other things that are relevant here is that, again, if you're campaigning, if you're going in country, in Latvia to campaign, you can see the interest for education based on region and based on city as well, to see if people in different cities within Latvia are looking more for a topic than the other. I see here, again, AI is the main one, but education is quite powerful in this particular city. If we go back to see what kind of keywords people use, no surprise, Netflix show, sex education. I'm not sure if you're watching, so that's why maybe in, I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, it's Jurmala? Yes? Lucky guess, lucky guess. So that's why it's probably education so looked, in Jurmala. It's because it's a Netflix series. It's not always relevant. But how can you use this as a campaigner? Think about it. If your policy agenda is education, people watch sex education. You know also that sexual education is so important in schools. You can include this in your campaigning message. Have an educational message about importance of teaching this to young people from school age, if you of course believe in this priority. And then you can tap into the fact that most people nowadays in Latvia, because of the Netflix show, Google sex education. So your message can also be higher by riding this wave, so to say, of people looking for this Netflix series. Also, not surprising, and I've seen this also happening in neighboring Lithuania as well, and also in Estonia, a lot of people look for Minecraft. It's either parents trying to understand what their kids are doing, or the kids themselves Googling for Minecraft. But again, you can see this as a way to understand better what keywords you can associate with for your different policy priorities. I guess in climate things will be a bit more straightforward. Of course, it's climate change, climate zones, less Netflix series related. And let's see for AI. Interesting enough, it's Character AI, which is a startup AI generator. It's no ChatGPT actually, or like no actual chatbot. It's people are looking for specific free AI, image AI, so specific keywords next to AI. To make it even more understandable, I will give you an example from the European Parliament in Brussels, where I recently trained an MEP, a member of the parliament, who was really keen on campaigning in his home country in Romania on climate. And he was very frustrated that even though he's the only green MEP for Romania in the parliament, he was not able to tap into the voters in Romania on climate. And he was using the equivalents in Romanian of all the keywords, climate, sustainability, foresting, until we had a training, and we discovered using Google Trends that actually the keyword to reach out to the people who are climate friendly in Romania was recycling. He didn't think about this, he didn't include recycling in his communications, but actually in Romania, most people were using Google to look for recycling because of a big supermarket campaign on recycling. It was like a huge national campaign that an equivalent to Lidl in Romania was doing. And I advised him, so why not use recycling in your communication so that when people look for recycling because of the supermarket campaign, they might see your message as well. So that's why Google Trends, it's powerful. You can understand what your audience is looking for and better adapt your keywords to make sure that you know you're being found and your message is being heard by the right people. I'll move on, and if there's any questions at any point, you please interrupt me, because I prefer to be interrupted than to wait until the end for Q&A. So at any point, raise your hand and we can stop. If there's no questions, I'll go back to the presentation, and yes, please. So this is the moment for the microphone. Yes.
It is a question related to the timeline that you showed from 2004 in general. What should we know about use of Google over these 20 years that might impact what we are seeing over this time?
Nothing that I would highlight. I mean, Google, of course, 20 years ago was maybe not as used as it is now. It has been gradually increasing, but I think even 20 years ago, probably it was one of the top 2 search engines. So I think not that much. Maybe it's just that, again, because there were less users, maybe some of the results will be, and we can actually go back to look. Maybe some of the results will have less data, but let's just see, actually, better than talk about it. Let's just see what is the answer. So yeah, there is data. Education was in 2004, obviously the main topic, not climate, not AI. So I guess the data is correct in this case, because there was no AI discussions at the time, at least not locally. And gradually you see there's a peak here, and a very important one, which I've also noticed when using this Google Trends feature for Estonia and Lithuania. I'm not sure what happened in 2012. I should Google it, because there was something to do with climate, and it was not the SDGs, because they were adopted in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. But there was something else major that determined most Latvians to look for climate in March 2012. Maybe we can all Google it afterwards to see.
Maybe floods in Europe.
Maybe the floods. Maybe. The AI one, obviously everybody remembers why. It's the moment with ChatGPT. You can see how incredible, powerful this tool is. Exactly November 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. What happened on Google? People started looking for ChatGPT. So this is, I would say, going back to your question, quite accurate, even if you go back to 2004 to see data. Welcome. The microphone.
Climate, I think number of municipalities joined European Covenant of Mayors. there were quite many municipalities that went to Brussels, signed the sort of document. So I think that was quite.
Would you like me to add another word just to see if there's any? Would you like me to add another word there?
It's okay.
It's okay. It's all clear for everybody. Also very important, since I know we're here and for all of us the topic of gender equality is important. Do be careful if it's like a phrase you want to put here, because the results that work best are when you use one word or maximum two. So gender equality should still be fine, but if you use I don't know, anti-harassment for women, it's already, the result will not be accurate, because then Google Trends will think, okay, what do I provide data? Anti-harassment for women, so 2 words maximum I would recommend to use, no more, to get the most accurate results from the tool. So, no, I mean, by using the words themselves, they work like hashtags, basically. So it's a good comparison, actually. Okay, I'll go back. Here it is. So, this is pretty much with Google Trends. It's very straightforward, and as was mentioned, I will share with you the presentation afterwards, so there's even more resources to share with your teams, so they can, you know, try the tool, see how it helps you, and I'm sure you still have time to nuance a few things in your communications campaign to make use of Google Trends. So Gemini, this is the latest tool that Google launched. But before we actually describe it, let me ask you if you know what an LLM is, because it's still... You use daily. Okay. Would you like to describe what the acronym means? With the microphone, of course.
A large language model.
Excellent. Sure. That's perfect. So we already have at least one person who knows it. Yeah.
Okay, we don't have time for jokes, but actually for me, LLM was law degree.
Law, yes.
Which I have.
That's how you see who in the room has studied law. So I guess all of you have at least tried once to open ChatGPT or Gemini. You see? So we do have already users, which is great. So I will not stay too much on explaining you what generative AI is, but maybe there is an important nuance to provide, because whilst the way Google search works, it's, you know, to provide you links with resources based on your question, you know, with different sources of information. The way generative AI works, it's based on a statistical model that the algorithms put together based on all the data they have. And then when you ask it something, they provide you an answer based on what the model predicts is the most likely word to follow. That's why there's hallucinations. That's why both ChatGPT, Gemini, all these tools are not 100% accurate. In some cases, even a question like, what's the date today, might not get you a correct answer, because the tools are, again, not meant to predict, not meant to give you exact answers. You know, they predict things, and in some cases, they make hallucinations. That's why already I mentioned as a nota bene, never copy-paste input you get from the tools. Always double-check. Always check the sources if possible to make sure the response is accurate. Why Gemini and not Bard? Because maybe some of you have heard of Google Bard. Is it? No? So Google Bard used to be Gemini. It's exactly the same tool. The reason Google changed the name is because Gemini is the large language model powering the chatbot. So Google thought, well, it's easier for users to remember the name of the LLM, which is now also the name of the chatbot. To give you a more easy to understand example, ChatGPT is the chatbot, GPT is the LLM. So also, OpenAI is doing the same. They use the name of the engine powering the tool in the name of the tool itself. So Google is doing, I guess in this case, a similar thing. Gemini is the engine and the chatbot. So here is this is where the magic happens on a be it a ChatGPT or a Gemini, because the structure of a great prompt works the same. And my hope as a user of these tools is to see that they will help us ask better questions in real life, because the way you ideally prevent hallucinations from happening, so for the tool not giving you the best answer, is by asking a better question. It's like, again, in real life. If you ask somebody a superficial question, you might get a yes or no answer. Similarly, in these tools, the more you follow this anatomy of a great prompt, the more likely you will be to get an answer that is actually very useful for you. And we'll, in a second, go into some concrete examples that I've used on Gemini to show you how it works. But before, let me take a step back and provide you an overview of what people use Gemini for and what people use in general conversational tools like this one for. 4 main use cases. So, and this is specifically important for people running for elections, it's anticipate and prepare for scenarios. interviews, debates. This is where you can ask a tool like Gemini, how can I prepare for a debate with the XYZ politician from this party? Or you might not even have to mention the name, just I'm a liberal, how can I prepare for a debate with a conservative in this party? And it provides you with ideas. Same with interviews and so on and so forth. Brainstorm and build ideas for your campaigns. This is where if you're a communications team, you can ask it, I want to reach younger audience in Riga. What can I do? And it gives you ideas. I'm a communicator myself. You know, my job title is a communications professional, but and for me, the way I use this tool is mostly actually to brainstorm. Out of 5 ideas, 4, I think either myself or somebody in my team would have thought of them, but there's always one that nobody has thought of. Maybe because it's too crazy to be implemented, or maybe it is actually very useful and could change the face of our campaign. So it's always good to try to brainstorm with these tools on different ideas in communications campaign. Last 2 use cases, summarize and tailor information. I live in Brussels, and in Brussels there's a lot of legislation. I'm sure in your roles in Latvia as well. This tool, Gemini, ChatGPT, again, all this is applicable to all these chatbots. They're very useful to summarize long pieces of legislation. I'm particularly interested in AI. I deliver talks around the world on the impact of AI on the future of work outside of my work at Google. And the first time the AI Act came in Brussels, I've asked one of the co-rapporteurs, do you have the ChatGPT version of it? He didn't, but somebody in his team was kind enough to provide me with a 400-word summary of the 200-page document. It took them 2 minutes with the Gemini or ChatGPT tool. So it's very powerful for citizens to understand legislation, to follow it, and to be able to respond to it in debates. Last but not least, again, this is more for your teams, helping you with the communications, your social media team in particular. There's a lot of talk of how these AI conversational tools can help you draft blogs, social media posts, even emails for your voters, for your volunteers. And I've recently trained the ALDE party in Brussels, and they've been using these tools to draft, again, just the first draft of different messaging for volunteers. I always mention, and I reiterate what I said to you earlier, always double check what the tool provides, because it's still prone to small errors, and it's very important, especially if you disseminate that message publicly, to make sure that there's still a human checking it. But for the first draft, it's an amazing assistant. I like to call AI conversational tools the intern that doesn't need to sleep or eat. See it as an intern because it's not the same level of skills as you have. It's an intern who just joined the team. You need to check everything, but they give you a first good draft. So I think that's a nice way maybe to see it as more of a humane member of the team, even though it's still a technology, of course. So there's a lot of examples. I will not bore you with all of them because I will share the presentation, but just this is to see concretely how that anatomy works in real life. So I've actually asked Gemini some months ago, you're the press or communications director of an EU political group, provide me with a list of tough questions in bullet points, which is the formatting I'm asking, that you would anticipate from a Politica journalist in an interview on the upcoming elections. And it provided me with some, tips. Again, some I thought of myself, it was not rocket science, but some were quite interesting to see. However, it's not always possible or even desirable to take exactly the perfect prompt, like have every element of the anatomy that I have there on the right. In some cases, even just giving it the role, so the thing on the yellow, and defining the goal, the thing on the text on the green, is more than enough. Again, you're an MEP in a debate, give me the best 3 liberal answers and the 3 best conservative arguments. This will help both you in the campaign, and my hope, and maybe I'm a tech optimist, my hope is that such prompts could help society bridge some of the discrepancies we have in vision now, because we see, maybe less in Europe than in the US, but even in Europe, in different countries, we see this bridge between people, between views. We see a society which is sometimes finding it difficult to find common ground. Such prompts can help you understand the other side of the aisle much better than you have previously. Again, plenty of examples of specifically targeting, in communications, a subset of the population, brainstorming campaign tactics, comparing global or national laws, again, if they're already in place. I tried with the EU AI Act. It's not as reliable since this is still being revised in many ways. With GDPR, it worked lovely. It provided me with, with information put already in a table, which you can then put in a Google Sheet, because it's, the format is the same. identifying trends, and this was actually quite a nice one, because again, if you're part of the European political party, the political group, you know, Ursula von der Leyen being the president, you might not remember all her State of the Union addresses, so you can use a tool like Gemini to ask what were the key messages she shared, put them in a table, and then you, if you design a speech, you can use some of the key messages as a nice way to, you know, show that you're listening to the messages and that you remember them even from 5 years ago. Translating documents, and again, this is where I personally still use Google Translate, but Gemini does the same job of translating different documents. Summarizing text, I already mentioned this. Developing catchy headlines for press releases. Drafting social media posts. And the list goes on and on. And we even have an ombudsman example here. Whoops. And I know there's a draft response to the following letter. So if you work with the European Ombudsman, you can also be able to respond to the different queries you have in a very polite way, and obviously you can personalize it afterwards, but in some cases this could be very helpful. Map stakeholders, and here normally if we would have a bit more time I would do even a little workshop, but now for the interest of time I will actually go to the last slide of the Gemini part of the session, which is to myth bust, to kind of once and for all clarify that at least for now a tool like Gemini or ChatGPT is not here to displace Google or Bing, the search engines. It's complementary. You should never, at least with the current level of the technology, go on Gemini and ask, where can I vote? You know, why should I vote? Because it might provide you with not the most accurate information. Again, see it as an intern for creative ideas, for communications campaigns, you know, how to reach an audience, how to understand it better. But when you need an accurate response, when are the EU elections, still ask a Google search engine, which provides you both with the links and with relevant references. What you can also do, and this is where I have to say that here, this is a training for Gemini, and this is definitely the tool that I recommend and I personally use. This is actually how my tab usually looks like. I have plenty of tabs open. I always have Gemini open, but personally, because I always like, in order to make sure that the answers I get are the most accurate, I use two tools in parallel. So I used Gemini, and I also use, personally, Perplexity, which is another tool, a smaller organization, a startup, that it provides me also with the sources, which can be quite useful if you ask it for information for a very important policy paper or report. You can reference to the sources here. And again, I usually try to ask the same questions on both Gemini and Perplexity to see how the answers differ. And this is very helpful for me to then create my own answer based on the input I get. Okay, going back. Any questions on Gemini? Anything that is unclear?
I don't know if that's a polite question, but since many of us use ChatGPT more than Gemini, how, what quality of interns they both are in your mind?
Sure, it's a very polite question. It's a natural one. I think ChatGPT was definitely the first on the market, so it's normal. I think most people are knowing of AI conversational tools because of it, even though the technology was developed by Google, we just didn't launch it in time. Gemini has the advantage of, if you use even the free tool, it's connected to the Google search engine, so the data is the most up-to-date. It's as of today. If my knowledge is correct, or my memory, because I did try it myself, of course, ChatGPT, unless you pay for the premium, it's not using the most up-to-date data, which I think for a lot of things is quite important. For some, it's not, if you just want to ask it for creative ideas, but if you need accurate information, still Google, for the free version, it's the best tool, I think. And again, I provided you with a smaller competitor, Perplexity, to give you a counterweight. So in my view, if you prefer ChatGPT, it's a personal choice, use it, but then use a Perplexity, use a Character AI, a smaller company as well, to see what they provide, if there's any differences. So that's my recommendation. Yes, another question.
I would rather give a short comment. Thank you very much what you said about how to use these large language models, let's call them so. I will not mention this competitor, but I have been using just naturally, intuitively, just on the same way. And I was not calling it like in turn, I was calling like a colleague. So, because your colleagues usually have working time. But this you can ask every idea, you can check every idea every time. That's great. So I really support using that. But of course, it's a junior. you are responsible for results. You are responsible. You cannot later blame that actually this was the AI who said me that. So you need to be responsible for the content you distribute later.
Yes, it's very important. And there's also another comment in the back. Or here. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yes, I have a question. Actually, now you have showed the, let's say, the positive or constructive ways of using these tools for advancing democracy. Yet at the same time, there are also risks that of the malicious use and becoming targets of AI use actually for disinformation purposes. So what are the safeguards that Google has put in place for that? And are there also techniques that would allow us to also protect ourselves from this malicious use of the technology?
Sure. So now I'm speaking about chatbots. And then, so before we go to your question, just to quickly answer, and I'm now actually going to quote the CEO of OpenAI, who I just read an interview with him yesterday, and he said both ChatGPT and Gemini are tools to create content. People don't disseminate it on Gemini. People still disseminate it on other social media platforms. So at least with Gemini, the only thing that is important to do is that all the questions or the prompts that are to do with dangerous uses of, you know, where do I buy a gun or how do I create a bomb, these are banned, so nobody can actually check this on a tool like Gemini, and I think on ChatGPT is the same. But otherwise, what people do with legal context, legal answers that is provided, or like anything that is giving you as an input, if people then rechange it and put it in a different way on social media, that's not something that Google or Gemini is responsible for, in my view. It's the people using it and using other platforms to disseminate. What I can give you, and that's why I actually opened the page to, because maybe this is a different topic, but one that is, I think, as citizens important, privacy, is that there's, for ChatGPT as well, and it's on Gemini, I'm going to show you how it works. If you don't want your questions to be used for the training of the algorithm, there's actually here, you can turn off the activity. So it's, and I'm going to show you again just to make sure it's, so you go on activity, and then this page will be created, and then you turn off. So the advantage with this is, of course, if you want this, it's for your own privacy, so none of your questions will be used to train the algorithm. But there's always the but, and this is the same with everything in life. You know, there's a pro and a con. The con is that it will not remember what you asked, so it will provide you maybe in some cases, if you ask it, but what did I ask earlier? Can you follow up on that? It will not be able to do so as accurately. So there's a pro and a con, but if you value more not having any of your questions used in training these tools, this is important also for me to show. You can turn it off here and even delete activity, so basically everything you asked it. I think your question, and I will get back to it on YouTube, is more to do with deepfakes, which is a topic which I think it's a very important one to discuss. And I think nobody at Google or OpenAI has all the answers. I think YouTube, to already kind of hint to it, what YouTube is doing. So YouTube has created a sort of a way to detect deepfakes, which is, it's called a watermark. But it's not like a watermark you see on TV, which is literally something that you see on the screen. It's an algorithmic watermark that will detect generative AI videos that somebody uploads on YouTube. However, like with every technology, there's always a bad actor that will manage to potentially overrule this. So maybe I would say percentage-wise, this will hopefully protect us from 85 to 90% of the deepfakes, but not 100%. So this is still a technology that is being developed to safeguard people from deepfakes, which are now indeed all over Europe. There's more and more of them, and we're definitely aware of it. Please.
Yes, I have a question regarding the microphone button you have there on
Yes.
Gemini. So it means that I can even ask a question, right?
Yes.
Can I do it in Latvian? Will it understand me?
Yes, and this is a great point, and this is a point for any language except English. So if you ask it in your language, even if you type it, the result might not be as accurate, but this is simply because there's more content online on English. So that's the reality. So somebody asked me in the training yesterday in Lithuania, and it was the same answer I give. Better if you have a question that is relevant for Latvia, ask it in English and then ask the tool to translate it, because it just has more data in English. That's the reality. I think maybe in the future, the only way to overcome this problem, and maybe this is, again, pro and con, is now we see generative AI creating content. So if you ask a generative AI tool to create a lot of content in Latvian, and then ask another generative AI tool to use that content to better inform its answers, then we'll have even more accurate answers in all the languages. At the moment, it's English and Spanish, probably French after, in which even if you ask in these languages, you have accurate answers. Yes.
How recent is the data which Gemini provides?
So in Gemini, I think it's as of today. As of today. So it's again connected to the Google search engine. That's the difference between it and ChatGPT. It's recent data.
Amazing. And is there also a paid version? Or?
Yes, so the same as with ChatGPT, there's a paid version, I think around $20 per month or something, that unlocks an even stronger tool, because Gemini, the one that it's free, is strong, but it's not the latest version. And it gives you also other features that Gemini provides in, for instance, Google Slides. You can ask, if you have the premium version, Gemini to create a presentation draft from scratch, or you can ask in Google Docs to summarize information. So there's a lot of other features you can unlock, and this is part of what Google calls, I think, the OneDrive. So I personally have, more gigabytes for my Google Drive, for instance, and I know as part of that membership, you have also some Gemini features. So it's not just you get more space on Google Drive, because you pay that $20 or so per month, you also get a lot of Gemini features as well.
Okay, thank you.
There's another question in the back. I'm glad to see a lot of interest in this.
Google has payment advertisement. Does it mean that Gemini will first provide information from the paid sources and then over from other sources, or not?
That's No, that's a great question, because I follow this topic, AI in general, quite often. So Google has Google Search, where of course the model is based on paid advertisements as well. So you have your usual 10 blue links, plus initially 1 or 2 sponsored ads. Gemini, no. Gemini is not based on that. And Google, luckily, is a large enough company to not be forced, at least not at the moment, to add ads on Google Gemini. That's why, though, Google and also Microsoft is doing this in OpenAI, they have the premium version. So in order to counterbalance the costs of training these large language models, there's this now payment option, which if you pay $20 per month, you get the better Gemini, and that's how a company like Google and others is managing to monetize this. The other company I showed you here, Perplexity, and I'm very transparent about them as well, and I have no stake in them, I'm just using them, as I said, and I want to recommend something I also find useful. The CEO of this company is now in discussions, because they're a smaller company, he's in discussions now with different providers to basically have these references still not ads, but then the tool provides you also with related questions. And he's now considering, because it's a smaller company and they will probably need to have some monetization, to ask companies to pay for ads for the related questions. So indeed, the ads model for a smaller company might be the way to go, but with Google, given that it's already a large tech company, at this moment there's nothing to do with ads with Gemini, at least at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And if there's no other burning question, I'll try to move a bit to the YouTube part, since there's a lot to discuss here as well, and I'm also mindful of your time. Have you used YouTube professionally? So do you have a YouTube account for your party, for yourself? Some of you, yeah? Okay. I will cover here even the most basic steps, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, but I will also show you some strategic ways to use YouTube. First, just to really position what is video in our lives, and I think, especially for the Generation Z, it's part of their basic needs now. It's, eating, sleeping, communicating, and watching video. Again, if you have children, if you're teaching in university, the new generation consumes video content, be it YouTube videos, Instagram Shorts, or TikTok, probably more than any other type of content. Globally, video will be 85% of all internet traffic by 2025, according to a Cisco annual internet report from last year. So this is huge. A lot of the energy usage in technology will be for people consuming video, and I think this is all of us to some degree. Just on YouTube alone, close to 3 billion people, and this is a number from last year, are monthly active users. So not just people who use it once and never come back, but people who use it consistently throughout the month for either shorter form of video or documentary style videos, which YouTube allows. Why do people come to YouTube? And I think in the room we'll have people who come for different reasons, or for all three. Inspiration, education, entertainment. You probably find yourself in each of these categories, depending on the day as well. Very important is this little nota bene at the bottom here, because we have a lot of people who are in office or running for an office. it's important to realize that even if it's political content, it can be entertaining, it can be educational, and it can be inspirational. So, especially being in Brussels, I often see policymakers putting out videos that are very much tailored for policymakers, not for voters. And it's very important to realize that the language you use on a daily basis with colleagues might not be the language or format that was easy to understand for a voter. So if you want to get the most of YouTube from posting political content, make it inspirational, educational, or entertaining. And we'll get in a second to how can you do that. Here there's some key numbers that some I mentioned, others I didn't. The last one is probably the most important, the big 3x there. That's the exponential increase of people who are now going to YouTube for political related news. I already mentioned how the younger generation now goes to YouTube even before Google or Facebook or other platforms specifically for news, for politics, so that's why you should be there. If you're not already, I'll cover it in 2 minutes how to build a channel from scratch. So first you have to find your channel, and this is also very important if you have one. Why? It's because for some rare cases, it can happen that somebody who wants to mess with your campaign, who maybe is a bot, a troll, who wants to basically create another YouTube channel with your name to send out disinformation. So that's why every now and then, maybe once a year, YouTube yourself to make sure that even if you have a channel, somebody else hasn't created a similar channel with the same name, because if they have, you can report it and somebody at YouTube will take it down immediately. Having a name and a description is very clear, and I think all of you that have a channel have this already done. What I see less, not just in member states, but also in Brussels for European Parliament officials, is to use this space, which is a free advertising space. It's the banner. It's the place where you have the chance to put a message, a photo with your key message, with your key constituency. It's again the chance to captivate somebody's attention, because we're visual creatures, humans. So if somebody goes on your YouTube channel, they will first look at the visuals. So having a clear image there is very important. The second important element, and again, this is something I don't always see, but I would love to see a bit more, is having a 1 to 2 minute channel trailer. By channel trailer, I mean the video that is automatically starting when I start the channel. And to give you an example, I already have here a channel started of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So I'm going to refresh it so you can see what the channel trailer means. Boom. So it starts automatically. Basically, this means that anybody who would go on your page would automatically see this video, and they would still watch for a few seconds at least. So that's your best chance if you have a YouTube account to captivate somebody's attention. And that's why it's also important to keep it short, because if it's more than 2 minutes, you will probably lose people unless they're colleagues or family members, realistically. It's, again, for political content we see, the ideal is 1 to 2 minutes. Last but not least, for the most basic steps of how to build a channel is you probably have already a presence on social media, which is great. Add it in your email signature. It's the main way for which you communicate with colleagues, with, in some cases, volunteers, voters. Having it there, not just YouTube, all your other social medias, it makes it easy for people to access you and to find the way you position yourself in different platforms. Okay, how do you post great videos? Well, first you have to ask yourself who's your key audience. And here, this is the generic 3 key audiences on YouTube. It's us, viewers, it's creators, and you would become a creator yourself, of course, if you post content. And less relevant for us here in the room, it's advertisers. This is more for the corporate users. What's our challenge? We have to fight for attention. And we probably all remember how, 10, 20 years ago, most of the family members were gathering around a TV or a radio, listening to the news, 7 p.m., later, depending on the case. Attention was glued to that device. Nowadays, we all have at least one device in our phones, maybe even now, in the moment. So it's very hard to captivate somebody's attention. And as an anecdote, even TED Talks, the famous TED Talks, they used to be 18 minutes long. I think 5 years ago, they recommended speakers, and I delivered a few TED Talks, and they recommended 15 minutes. Now the best TED Talks have between 8 to 10 minutes. That's the downside of technology. Our attention spans are getting lower and lower, and even TED Talks reflect this. So 8 to 10 minutes for a TED Talk. If you have a political message, make it, ideally, the channel trailer 2 minutes, because that's how much you have to really get somebody's attention. Yeah, I mean, you will have also 30-second videos for shorts, for what you have maybe on a TikTok or an Instagram, or even now with YouTube Shorts. So that's one kind of a message. I would like the channel trailer to be seen, to be your chance to deliver your key message in 1 2-minute video. So that's not just for one campaign, or not just for this is the day in the life, and maybe it's a shorter message. This is your whole brand on YouTube, basically. It's like, maybe the best comparison is with a movie trailer. It's the only chance somebody might have to understand if they would pay for you, or well, in this case, not pay to see you in the cinema, but if they would vote for you, what they would get. You have 2 minutes to convince them. This is the difference between a TV ad and a YouTube ad, or a TV video and a YouTube video. On TV, most people are used to commercials that are like what we grew up in, novels. You have the hero, he or she has a journey, or shiro, because I've learned this actually at the last European Women Lobby training. So the shiro here has a climatic moment, she saves the day, and then there's the ending with the usually happy ending, a typical Hollywood ending. That doesn't work on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. People can skip quite easily. They can move to another video. So you have to keep them guessing. So that's the story arch in a YouTube video. You really have to keep people on the edge of their seat. You have to keep them guessing. And you do this by following a few basic principles I'll show you in the next few minutes. But before those principles, important to remember for your campaigning teams is that most people consume video on their mobile phones. Actually, and this is again a number from last year, just on YouTube alone, 63% of videos are consumed from our little devices. And I emphasize little because it's important to have, if you use text, bigger text and graphics, bright footage. I'm one of the people who, on my phone, I don't have full brightness. I have maybe 40%. That's how I like to use it to save my battery. If your video is filmed in a dark room, like this one, there's not a lot of natural light, people like me would not see the same quality of the video, basically. So make sure you film in a bright space to make use of natural light, if possible. Tighter cropping and faster pacing cuts, we'll see in a video I'll show you of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's a great example of using YouTube in a political context. And not mentioned here, but very important to be inclusive, is to have subtitles for at least the channel trailer and maybe 1 or 2 other videos, because I know it might take a bit of time to create subtitles, to upload them. This is important, again, for inclusivity, but also actually for everybody, because all of us, at least once a day, listen to a video during working hours without sound. So if you don't want to miss somebody who's maybe at work checking your video without sound, having subtitles makes sure you avoid having that risk. And here, use the power of stories, authentic stories I would add. So video allows you to have, and maybe this is the only medium that allows you to tap into all these boxes. So this is how the human brain is. We have the emotional side, the rational one, sensory, behavioral. Only through video you can communicate the message in such a way. So this is your chance to really make an impression in those 2-minute videos that I mentioned. Very important, before I actually show you an example of a video, and this is often I see it in politics, usually it's a politician that shows too much himself or herself and not enough his key stakeholders, and this can happen. But also there's the case of somebody who's maybe a bit more camera shy, who has a campaign video in which it's mostly the voters, mostly the team. The goal, I like to say, is in politics to be in the middle, to kind of show enough yourself and show also the people who you're trying to help, who you are representing, your constituents. And before I go into best practices, I want to show you, even without sound, because it's more important to see what it looks like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, so this candidate from the US, and her first campaigning video from 2019. I know some of you have already probably seen it. I will try to add the automatic subtitles to get a better context, and I'll put my volume up to hopefully hear a bit as well. So this is a short 2-minute video, as you see, and I just want you to pay attention a bit to the elements she used here, both audio, video, and also some of the words she's been using.
Women like me aren't supposed to run for office. I wasn't born to a wealthy or powerful family. Mother from Puerto Rico, dad from the South Bronx. I was born in a place where your zip code determines your destiny. My name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm an educator, an organizer, a working-class New Yorker. I've worked with expectant mothers, I've waited tables, and led classrooms. And going into politics wasn't in the plan. But after 20 years of the same representation, you have to ask, who has New York been changing for?
intentionally wanted to stop it there for a very important reason. Was it at 1:05? Just a second. Sorry about that. Here, yes. There's a key moment here that hopefully you all caught. That's why I'm running for Congress, but
That's why I'm running for Congress.
here. So it's both a powerful image, but it's also very important because it's a 2-minute video and she mentions why you should watch the video in 1 minute. Why? Because she knows, even though she's done a great job with a low budget team, because this was when she was not already in Congress, she was coming from the Bronx, used to be a waitress, amazing story. So she didn't have a huge team, a huge budget. This is a video that all of you can do with, you know, an intern, a human one, who has a phone nowadays, given the capabilities that phones nowadays have. What she did, though, was she knew the best tips and tricks of how to make an impression, and she created a movie trailer. And she stopped here for already in 1 minute, I'm running for Congress, knowing that some people, even if they loved what they saw, they might say, okay, fine, I'm not voting for her, or I am, but it's enough for me and I'm not going to watch until the end. If you wait until the end to say I'm running for Parliament or for the EU elections, you might already miss out on everybody else who might be a potential voter. Anything else that you noticed that you would like to highlight from the video that you liked in particular? Anything at all, other than this moment? It's very emotional. She's very authentic. She's charismatic, which helps, of course. Anything else to do with this video? Emotional, so it's great.
She showcases the people that she's doing that for.
Exactly. Showing herself in the community. So again, herself and the community together, not just one or the other. I'm not sure how loud was my laptop and if you've heard it, but even the music, it's following the curve of going to the climatic moment of her announcing she's running for Congress and having the tada moment there. So she's playing with our behavioral, sensory, emotional parts of our brain through this video. She's using video really well. This moment, you know, I'm sure many people did exactly what I did, stopped it here, screenshot it and used it on social media. So everything is well thought, and even with the low budget, as I said, she can, and you can create an amazing video. This is just one example. I'm glad to hear there's at least one person in the room, and I think there's probably more who follow her. She's a good example of how a woman leader can use these social media platforms to disseminate the message clearly and authentically. And I'll follow, actually, this is for me the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leitmotif. I'll have actually quite a few best practices from her to use her as a case study. So again, going back, on your YouTube channel, you need a YouTube banner. Also, there's LinkedIn banners as well, but very important to use. You need a channel trailer, and if you don't have time, because there's not much before the elections, the other 2 or 3 videos you should definitely try to have is episodic content, which in this case, it's actually a video she uploaded from Instagram on YouTube. It was a Q&A with her voters. She really liked what she said. She applauded. Yes, it's not the best quality. She's probably speaking from her phone. It's fine. It's episodic content. She had the playlist for things which are longer form. This is a 40-minute video. It's fine to have it there. However, all her other videos, explainer videos, be it what I've done last year, I'll show in a second, what's a policy priority, or between 2 to 5 minutes long, so very important, keep them a bit longer than 2 minutes, because you cannot explain the whole year maybe in 2 minutes, but no longer than 5. And try now to do it maybe for the last 4 years, or if you've already been in a position of power already, or make a video about what you want to do if you are to be elected. This would be a second video, which is very important, after channel trailer, explainer video. And last but not least, policy priority. So I often see in Brussels policy priorities being explained in maybe blunt terms, not easy to understand for the voters. Now this is your chance to use a tool, a platform like YouTube, to disseminate the message in a very easy to understand language for your voters on the key policy priorities you have already, if you're in the parliament, or if the policy priorities you will push for. And this is kind of, you can weave this in as a leitmotif in all your videos, the behind the scenes, which of course can be done on Facebook and Instagram for short format, as you well pointed out. But if you have a longer form video, maybe there's, I don't know, Latvian Independence Day coming up, or something that is an important festival, you film yourself in your community, maybe it's a 5-minute video, that can be quite powerful. And I don't see this enough, for instance, in Parliament in Brussels. So if you hopefully will be in Brussels, don't forget that having a behind the scenes in the Parliament is nice, but your voters will like much more for you to have a behind the scenes in your neighborhood. That's what I would like to see more, to counteract a bit the fact that, okay, whilst you're in Brussels, you're visible there, but also don't forget to be visible back home with such videos. So things to remember are these ones. Attention spans are short. You, in some cases, have 2 minutes to captivate somebody's attention with your channel trailer. Your audience is on mobile, designed for it. Authentic stories are the winner, and how you make it more authentic, even if you're maybe a bit camera shy. Film, you're in your community, in your comfort zone. That's where you should feel most at home, with your family, with your friends, with your voters. That will hopefully encourage you to open up, to show your authentic self. Uploading episodic content, even if it's longer form, as long as you put it as a playlist, like longer form episodic content, it's fine. Policy priorities and behind the scenes. And now maybe to clarify why it's good to be on all social media platforms if you're campaigning, and why YouTube on top of the others. And I'll actually show the ALDE party for no particular reason other than that I trained them recently, and I discussed this quite a lot with them. They have a lovely, by the way, She Will Be Heard campaign that probably some of you are aware of. What I liked about their channel, and I want to give it in this case as an example, is that they have really easy to understand playlists. So why YouTube? YouTube, you should see it as a museum. You're the curator. You have to post videos, maybe not every day like you do on Facebook or Instagram, unless you do YouTube Shorts, which are, again, useful but for a different purpose. You post maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. YouTube is your chance to put your best artwork out there. Not every video, the best one. If Instagram and Facebook are quantity over quality, in my view, YouTube should be more on quality. And then, because it's a museum, use playlists. It's your best way to organize your content, and I think ALDE party has done a great job of organizing. These are all the videos from their party congress. This is what they're doing on campaigning. Very easy for somebody maybe in 5 years, so in 2029, to go back and see from the party or for a voter, what did ALDE party do back in 2024? This is what they do, very easy to find. So use playlists, and now something that even ALDE party, and I've mentioned this to the campaigning team, should do a bit more, going back to the channel here, is if you have such 1-hour videos, put them in a special playlist, the party congress, that's fine. But if you have a key message, ask your team, if you do have the capacity in the team to do it, to edit such a long video to a shorter video in which some key messages are shared. And again, I'll show what Alexandria has done and how she actually won the debates, won the elections previously in 2019 in her constituency. She had actually a TV debate with her main rival from the Republican Party. I'll not show you the video, it's irrelevant for now. What I want to highlight is that this was a 30 to 45 minute intervention on national TV. You see the duration? Her team cut it to the 30 seconds in which she made the clear point. This is maybe in common sense. This is what you should do, because the debate probably was interesting, but other than her fans, family, and friends, nobody would listen to 35 minutes probably of a political debate, because that's the reality. People nowadays, the attention span is dropping. You don't have as much time to get the message across. Cut it down to the exact moment you're the most proud of in a debate, in a public operation on TV or social media. This is, I think, something that we often forget. Editing is possible even on YouTube itself, or you can do it in another tool and then just upload the video directly. I spoke a lot on YouTube. Is there any questions on YouTube, how to use it to better campaign, or is it all clear? One question.
I actually love YouTube, and I think we should do what you say, but the question is provocative. You're advertising it because it belongs to Google, or because it is really so good and underlooked in some ways?
I mean, I'm representing Google tools here. I personally use it, so I'm a user. I have also my own channel, even though I'm not as active as maybe some of you are as a campaigner. No, I think there's plenty of examples, not just Alexandria who's using it. I'm going to give an example a bit far from home, in India. India is, quote unquote, the largest democracy. I mean, some would argue against that, but still, based on the number of people. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, now ends his YouTube videos by saying, and I've watched one of these videos, from a YouTuber to my fellow YouTubers. So it's becoming a very, very powerful tool for especially politicians and political groups to disseminate the message. Again, I would not put it lower, higher than the other social media platforms. It's just if your audience is there and 2.7 billion people are there, I think you should also be there. And I did already highlight why I think YouTube is maybe differentiated, is this idea of a museum. I would never go on even Alexandria's Instagram, even though I do have an account, to check what she's done 5 years ago. I did go on YouTube, it took me a few seconds, because she didn't upload all her stuff on YouTube, as she does maybe every other day on Instagram. Again, quality over quantity. This is the museum. It's your chance to show, maybe even to your grandchildren, what you've done, and it's easier to find than maybe going through all the other posts you've made on the other platforms. So for me, that's the key differentiating factor, and the option of telling longer form stories. As much as I keep emphasizing 2 minutes, it's still value in having a 45-minute debate, and she did upload that episodic content when she had the Q&A with the audience. YouTube is the platform for longer form videos, and in that case, there's no competition at the moment, I think. Thank you. If there's no other points, we do have, again, always resources at the end, and this will be shared with you. And there's a few best practices on how to protect your campaign. And maybe some of you have already been trained, knowing that you're already in Parliament in some basic things. And apologies, I'm repeating some things, but even with repetition, it's important to know that, first of all, it's not just deepfakes that you should be aware of now. Cyber attacks of phishing emails have increased exponentially since the last election. It's just because of the way society evolves. More people have technology, which means both good and bad actors. And this is just from last year. Examples from across Europe of different attacks that happened. These are headlines from different publications. So this threat is real for voters, for officials. I have here who's at risk. Basically, everybody in society is at risk. Of course, the level at risk is very different compared to somebody who's been running for the president, compared to somebody who's a voter. So very different levels of risk. But still, the attacks are similar in type. So the most common digital threats are these three: phishing attacks, man-in-the-middle, and DDoS. But today, phishing is the one they're going to be focusing more, and not phishing what you do for relaxing, but phishing attack. It's important to highlight. Why just phishing and not the others? Because the others are more targeting electoral offices. So for instance, DDoS, it's what happened, I think even in Slovakia back in 2019, when most likely somebody from the neighbor to the right was trying to postpone the moment of the results being announced. So they sent a lot of links to the electoral office in Slovakia until the site was down. And in those 2 hours, they tried to meddle with the results. So DDoS is mostly attacking electoral offices as opposed to individuals. Man-in-the-middle, again, can happen for individuals, but when they're, I would say, maybe at the level of a president of a country or prime minister, and is maybe with the presidential site, it's being taken down by a nefarious actor. So maybe less relevant for you as campaigners, as individual campaigners. However, phishing, this is what every one of us should be aware of, because we, maybe even today, some of us have gotten a phishing email. Or maybe we've been a victim of a phishing fake landing page. And I'll show you what I mean by phishing email first. This is an example from COVID, when again in COVID there was even a higher increase of such emails being received. Most of us have received, if not such an email, another email saying that we've won $1 million and we have to collect it by clicking on a link. Easy to spot, that's obviously a phishing attack. Most people don't fall trap for that, but you never know. However, these attacks are getting a bit more adept. They're getting a bit more sneaky. And here I have an example of a fake Google landing page, which a nefarious actor, a bad actor, was using to try to take somebody's Google account. Do you see anything suspicious about the page? Anything that already, from where you stand, is not as it should be? Some things should be very clear even from the back. Others may be a bit difficult to see. Exactly. So that's the first element that I hope all of you will notice is the link, which should be google.com in this case, not a redirect. And it's not HTTP, it should be HTTPS. So that's the first indication that this was not a real page. And the other element, which is a bit more difficult to see from where you're sitting. No, it's the logo. So it's a bit difficult to see maybe from where you stand, but hackers or humans as well, when they create a fake landing page, they usually go on Google Images to check for an image, and they're not as patient to look for the best quality image. So in this case, the Google logo is pixelated. So actually, I was close to being a victim of not a Google fake landing page, but a Weezer landing page. Somebody for, I don't know what reason, wanted to take my Weezer login details. I don't have much there, but anyways. And the fake landing page that the Weezer hacker created, the first thing I noticed was not the link, it was the logo. It was a pixelated logo. So if you're lucky, the fake page will be with the logo that is maybe suspicious. But always, if the logo is suspicious, check immediately the link. If it's a redirect, it's not a real page, don't put your account information there. Same can be with two-step verification, which actually, funny enough, it's a step I will discuss as a way to protect your account. But because of this, some hackers use it also as a way to steal somebody's information. Again, the link, the hyperlink, the URL is the most important to check. It's where usually the clue is if it's a real or a fake page. And something which is, I know, impossible to see from where you are, is the fact that usually if you would have your account, you would have a photo, hopefully. And this one doesn't have any photo there. So a small detail like this could already give you a hint that this is not you, actually. It's somebody else impersonating you. I will give you an anecdote, though. So this was an example which is maybe easy to understand and easy to spot. I was delivering this training a few years ago, and in my training, somebody was almost being hacked through a phishing email, which was great for me because I had a chance to give an example from the audience. I hope nobody is hacked in the room now. And she got an email from her boss, from her manager, asking her to open a file urgently because he needed something from her. And she did find it suspicious, so she asked me live in the session, can you come, David, to see if this is a problem? Because my manager would not be so urgent usually. And we checked, and it was an email with the same photo, and the email looked the same, but because she was in a training, so technically she should not be on email, she was not paying attention, the letter in the email, so basically the hacker added one other letter in the name of her manager that she didn't notice, and he was basically pretending that he's the manager. So in some cases, hackers can be much more sneaky than these examples of, the COVID example, or you've won $1 million. In some cases, they can take, presumably the account of a colleague, they change a letter or add a number and ask you to click on the link. So if you see something suspicious, in this case, which is a bit harder to detect, always do what I will show you now, actually. Let me see where I can show it to you so it's clear. I need an example of a link. So here. So usually before you click on anything in an email that is suspicious, you do this with your mouse over the link. And it's not appearing here because this is in a Google slide, but you would have here on the bottom of the page the link being depicted. Like, what's the link that is shown? You see, so here, not clicking here, but I don't click on the link. You just go over with the mouse over it, and then you'll have the link being featured. So you'll see, is this a bad link? Is it a good link? So this could be a helpful way for you to not be a victim of a phishing email attack. Other things you can do, and here we'll go into some practical advice. Again, I mentioned that this is effective. Again, you have a resource. This is a phishing quiz I recommend you to do yourselves and your team to be better prepared for different phishing attacks that are a bit more pervasive, a bit more risky. And actually, this is where you can see. So you see I'm not clicking, and there's a link on the left, on the bottom. That's how you see if this is a risky email. You don't click on it. You just go with the mouse over it so you can see what it would redirect to. Tips to protect. So here I'll start with some basic ones and then I'll move to some more advanced ones. Creating strong passwords. This is not rocket science, but I know even myself some years ago I had to realize that I was using the same password on multiple social media platforms. This is definitely not indicated because that means if somebody hacks into Instagram, then they will have all your other accounts. Or vice versa, if they hack YouTube, it's the same. So try to use different passwords, strong passwords on different accounts, social media or Gmail, Outlook, and so on. Keep them secure, and here, this is where I highly recommend you to use Google tools, but also other tools as well, as long as you use a password manager. Personally, I use Google and LastPass. LastPass is another smaller company that specializes in password managers. This is all they do. Why I do this? Because I like to keep my work emails on Google Password and my personal ones on another provider to just basically eliminate the risk. Because if it's two providers, I feel a bit more safe. It's a personal decision, but as I said, I transparently say what I do. You can do what you think is more relevant, as long as you use a password manager. Two-step verification. this is, you know, it works like you do with your online banking. You would, when you log into your Google account, you would be either via your phone, an SMS, or on your authenticator, you would get the message to confirm it's you. This is for most people the best way to be safe. You don't need anything more advanced than two-step verification. But if you are running for elections, if you are to be elected, or if you're already in the parliament, this could be something that you consider, which is the Advanced Protection Program. So what does this do? This requires people to get the security key, which is looking like this, a USB key that you connect to your laptop, that then you can register on this free program that Google has, Advanced Protection Program, which basically makes logging into your Google accounts dependent on having a key. So to understand even easier, if somebody wants to take over my Google account, they will need to hack my email, so find out what my password is, and steal my laptop at the same time, which is very unlikely because most times the hackers are not sitting in a cafe next to you. They're sitting somewhere in another country, maybe not that far away, trying to do some bad deed to you. We have a question in the back. Yes.
Well, many politicians and businessmen have assistants. Okay, especially with social networks and like YouTube, how to be simultaneously on a safe side and have an assistant helping you. Like if I want to have an access myself, and so that my assistant also has an access to my YouTube account or any other account. Thank you.
It's a good question, and I was going to mention this for these keys in particular, because again, if you think you're the most at risk, if you've already maybe been victim of a troll or disinformation, I do recommend you to acquire this key, and there's a link there from where you can get it. But indeed, as you asked, if you get the key and your intern, your colleague needs to use your account, they will need to use it from your laptop, or you need to buy them also a key, because you can register the same key on Advanced Protection Program for multiple people for the same account, but they will need a key as well. So that's the thing. So if you use your account with different people, they need to have access either to your laptop or to also have a key themselves. And such a key is usually between $20 or $30. You can buy it from Google Store or from Amazon, because there's different providers. It can be useful. You put it as a USB key.
Not on laptop. How do you use it on your phone?
So this can also be connected to your, there's
USB-C as well?
Yeah, there's I think it's called not NSP. It's a Near Field Communication, NFC.
Okay, I got it,
so it works with NFC as well. And usually how it works on the laptop, you connect it as a USB stick and you'd also click on it. Exactly. So it's very straightforward. What I also wanted to mention, very important regarding access. So how you stay safe, going back to the question there in the back, is by doing the basic things right. The create stronger passwords, the making sure your software is updated. Some people, sometimes for different reasons, they put off the option on their phone and laptop to automatically update. Recently, the Microsoft, I think one of their vice presidents was hacked. If you would use a Microsoft product, for instance, and you don't have automatic update, Microsoft immediately solved the problem. Good for them. They've sent out the update for their cybersecurity. But if you as an Outlook user don't have the automatic updates on, you might be still at risk. So having updates always on your laptop and on your phone, regardless of what providers you use. And doing the basics right, having a right login credentials, a strong passwords, and access, don't give access to everybody in the team to the same level. So this happened to Macron back in 2019. Famously, in this case, it's already in the past, so I can definitely mention it. Apparently, a Russian hacker tried to break into his team, and they hacked the account of an intern, somebody who just joined the team recently, who was not onboarded in Macron's cybersecurity strategy or priorities, and his account was hacked. And Macron at the time was at risk of losing the first election he had as as now the president of France. Why? Because that intern also was given the same access to his, whatever was using, Google Drive or another provider, as his chief of staff. So make sure you have different levels of security for different members of your team. You should be the only one, and maybe your closest one or two colleagues, to have editing rights. Everybody else, viewer or commenter, unless they need to do something with the document. So even doing this simple thing can keep you more protected on Google Drive or another platform like this. With accounts, you gave the example of a YouTube account. Indeed, try to make sure you have already a strong password there, you save it in a password manager, and that not too many people have access to the account. If all your team knows the YouTube password, train them at least to know, and you can share with them these slides to make sure they're all well equipped to detect any such potential physical, or in this case, phishing attack. Any other question regarding phishing, other potential attacks you might be a victim of? Because we do have now, I think, another 5-6 minutes for Q&A. Please.
There has been some cases where Google sign-in has identified some servers as devices. For example, it's called like a T1, 1+, and actually it should be something else, not a different device. So I wonder if you know about this.
So
the idea is that basically you kind of see where you are signed in security details, and you see like there's another device. But actually it could be not like the device. So how can you actually know which one is kind of this like safe ones and which are actually malicious ones?
Yeah, so usually you know, because technically, so usually what Google and any other, even I think Outlook probably does something very similar. If somebody logs into your Gmail account, for instance, from another device than the one that is recognized, you would get an email about it immediately. And they would ask you,
I know this one. I know basically if you there is like a glitch where you can see it as a different mobile device, but actually it's like from some of the servers, for example, in gaming ports and so on. So I wonder if you know about such cases.
No, really. I'm not sure if I understand exactly, or if I've seen those cases,
I'm not very specific, so it's
no worries. Were you a victim of this? Does this happen to you?
Yeah, I have seen this one, and basically at first I kind of was thinking of perhaps something is wrong and someone has hacked in, but when I googled it further, I saw it as like it's a common cause, like seeing such such a device, but basically it's like from other servers. So I wonder if kind of.
So in all cases, if you got it via email, did you get this via email?
No, it was just in my details. So basically,
just in your details.
Logged in this device.
If you see something suspicious, and this can happen also with attempts of fraud, of scamming, on all devices and on all platforms, if you see something suspicious like that, actually you can take the message you received, even if it's an SMS, and this happened to me even recently.
I know, it's not SMS, just like in details, so you have been logged
in. But even in details, you can copy-paste that and put it in Google and ask, is this real? Because in most cases, if there's something that other people have been a victim of, they would put it in a blog saying, this is bad.
I Googled this one. So I wonder if I could kind of contact someone in Google kind of to ask about this screenshot. Or so.
There is a way to report it for sure as well. I'm sure there's a...
Because it seems that it's okay, just I want to be sure and safe.
You want to be double check. I can also share with you my contacts afterwards if you want. I can ask for you as well. Of course.
I wanted to ask about this one password for all. This, because I don't feel secure with that. Because the first question, where it stores all my passports, how well protected this software is, and then if I forget this one very password, or someone gets it, this one very password, everything is in chaos. And I have also a problem that I work with different devices. So I have my private computer, I have my work computer, I have my mobile phone.
Yes.
So every device asks for passwords. So I have real problems with this password management. And as more difficult passwords you make, as more difficult is to keep them in mind.
Yeah, so first of all, I personally don't think nowadays we should still just depend on our memory for passwords. I think we should use the fact that all these password managers, be it Google or other providers, offer you the automatically generated one, which is a long list of letters and numbers, and then that's automatically saved in your password manager. So first, to your point, different passwords for different platforms, emails, it's very important to keep them different, so not to have the same password on two different things. Second, to store them in the password manager. I said I personally use two. That's how I make it work for me in my life. Professional, Google Password. Personal, LastPass. And this way it's easy for me because on my mobile phone, I usually have LastPass and the app is the password manager there, so automatically I have live those things updated. And on my laptop, it's Google Password Manager. So you can also divide. Also, one password manager can save them all. So, yeah, I think going back to your first point, different password, different devices and different tools. Because if you have the same, even if it's a long one, as you all said, if somebody cracks it And it's a small chance, because if it's a good password, it's very hard to crack. But if it does, everything else will be jeopardized. So, yeah, you don't have to memorize. I hope you're not memorizing all your passwords, because it's going to be... Of course, of course. Welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
You told us how we can better use the content and data available, also how we can be more secure. But on all the social media, starting from YouTube and others, there are often attacks, you know, people disliking or commenting in a very nasty way and so on. Do you have any strategies or advices or some tools that we can use to protect women politicians?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I mean, for everything, be it a deepfake video or a comment which is negative, if the algorithm hasn't stopped it, because as I said, for YouTube videos, we have this watermarks, which should hopefully stop a lot of the deepfakes. For comments with obscene language, negative things, there's also a filter that should automatically stop them before you even seen them. But if you still see them, it means somehow they escaped and you have to report them. And there's the little flag which you can report, be it videos, comments, and you should do it, because otherwise, if you don't, somebody else would also fall a victim to the same potential bad language used in a comment. So reporting is the best thing you can do. I think at this stage we no longer live in a society in which you cannot be present on these platforms. If you're campaigning, you have to be where the voters are. You have to be there. It's not always easy to manage a presence across all these, you know, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's not easy. I do hope you have a good team to support you in this. But yeah, going back to your point, reporting everything you see, which also for your reference at YouTube, if it's reported by a human, it's also always checked also by a human, an actual person, not just by AI, because there's also this debate of, if I report it, is it just seen by AI? No, it's usually if it's something reported with the comments you add there, the notes that are, you know, this is bad for this reasons, there's always also a human involved in checking why was this reported. So that's also important.
And one more question. In your presentation, even we discussed different kind of platforms or social media. We didn't come across something that is like having divisive opinion about, and that is TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think across Europe, engaging with younger audiences is a challenge.
Yes.
And also, if we look at Facebook or Instagram, we cannot reach the youngest voters.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we, because still 18 years old, maybe on Instagram, but definitely not on Facebook. So, and YouTube, I agree, there would be lots of audiences, but what's your attitude about TikTok? And
yeah, so
could we use it? Could we not?
Thank you for the question. I mean, I can only give not a corporate answer. I give my own personal answer, which is I don't personally use it at all, because for me the privacy risks were too big for the benefit. I know that's a difficult situation if you're running for office, because indeed your audience is there. But as long as you're comfortable with the potential privacy issues that some people have flagged in the US and in Europe, then use it. If you're not comfortable, then don't use it. I think it's a personal decision. Indeed, the younger audiences are there, but if you follow the debate even now in the US, there's big discussions of potentially having TikTok acquired, at least their US operations, so there's a lot of things happening. And realistically, maybe to even actually have a better idea, you know, to come up with something constructive, and this reminds me of something I didn't mention. Has any of you, or have any of you worked with the influencer, be it the Instagram influencer or a YouTube influencer? You have. I haven't seen many hands raised, so maybe not everybody in the room, I guess. Why is this important? You wanted to add something, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to say we use it as an opportunity to address lives of Roma women.
Excellent.
And we had almost 5,000 views for the videos. And on YouTube, that was only like, I don't know, 60, 70 or so. Yeah. But this cooperation and account of influencer has given us a lot of
yeah, because I know already time is of the essence for all of you running for elections, and realistically, everything I showed you here, you can do as of tomorrow to, you know, channel trailer, all this, you can do all these things, but realistically, it will take time for the results to come, and you don't have time. So what you can do to circumvent this issue of not having time is to find I guess in your case in Latvia, for influencers that you resonate with and that have a neutral message usually on their platforms to work with, to ask if you'd be featured in one of their podcasts. This is happening a lot in Europe, in member states. We have in France, I remember in 2019, there's YouTubers that specifically focus on political content. Well, France is famous for debates and so on all the time, but maybe in Latvia as well you have, if not YouTubers focused on political content, but maybe YouTubers focused on, and I'm sure there are, gender equality, women leadership. These are topics that more and more YouTubers and Instagrammers and all these influencers follow, and if you have a message that resonates with their audience, they might, in some cases even for free, just give you the stage to just share a message, which of course has to be neutral, but I've seen this happening, and if you do this, I can guarantee that whatever video or message you have will have a much bigger reach than you could have by just posting it on your own channel if your channel is not already followed by many people. So in 2 months, realistically, that's the best bet. To go now, and I can even show you a platform to see what are the most popular channels in Latvia, social blade. Let's see if we have, okay. So these are the most popular channels on YouTube in Latvia, apparently. Some will be less relevant for you, others may be relevant, I don't know. The idea is to scroll a bit here, because you see there's quite a lot. And you can do this, Social Blade is a neutral tool. It's not Google powered, it's just a tool that is useful to see what are the most popular platforms on all social media in each country in the world, which I think is quite good. See this as your menu of who you could potentially work with. These are YouTube channels, again, in some cases, these are YouTube channels that are entertainment, education, music. They might not be relevant. Others could be. There's many here, I don't know. I don't know who John Peter is, maybe is your potential next influencer. To show you an example quickly, from, I'm originally, actually I didn't mention, I'm originally from Romania. And in Romania we had, let's see if it's still there. Let's see if it's still there. I don't find it. Yeah, so it's harder for me to find it now because it's been 6 years since, but this guy, Dacian Cioloș, who's in the parliament now, a Romanian politician, he was a technocrat. He didn't have a huge online presence when he started to become a politician. He was eventually even the prime minister for a while of Romania. But what he did very smartly, he worked with this influencer called Doza Dehash in Romania, and he had one sort of live stream with the Cioloș, with Dacian, 30-minute conversation. Dacian Cioloș was elected in the parliament. Of course, there's many other factors, but this was for him, for this politician in my home country, the way to be known for the younger people. Because everybody knew him for his age group, let's say, and demographic, but the young people discovered him because of this conversation with Doza Dehash, which it'll be great if I can find him, but maybe they had a different title for the video. I don't remember anymore. So this was the most popular YouTuber in Romania, and he was usually doing YouTube videos about technology. So not even politics, but because Dacian had a very open message to young people, he worked with this guy, and today he's still in the parliament and in a happy position in Renew Europe. Any other questions, or we're ready to wrap up and probably yes, no?
If no questions, then maybe the last one. For YouTube, I think the more and more audiences like the shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are really short, attractive, and you could not stop watch like in TikTok.
Yes.
So I really think that the biggest challenge is to make the message really short and easy.
Yeah.
And with colleagues, the new colleagues in technology, we might achieve it. And so thank you very much for
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Your presentation. We will send to all our participants. And we keep the recording also on our Facebook account. Thank you very much, and I think you deserve a good round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
tiešsaistes skatītājiem. Es gribu vēlēt pirmkārt visām sievietēm veiksmi vēlēšanās. Mēs nosūtīsim jums arī iespēju parakstīt Eiropas Sieviešu lobby manifestu, strādāt un rīkoties sieviešu labā, tā skaitā, lai būtu spēcīgāks aizsardzības mehānisms sievietēm pret vardarbību un lai sievietēm būtu vairāk iespēju ekonomikā piedalīties un politiskajā dzīvē. Tā kā paldies visiem uz tikšanos!